Dear learners, now let's move to another important chapter in our S&OP journey. This chapter is nothing but learning about S&OP KPIs. Now, so far, we have already understood how the forecasting works. We have also seen how to do forecasting manually and also using Excel's inbuilt functionalities. We have also seen in our previous sessions about 5 different steps of S&OP and how they are structured. Now it's time to measure how good our planning really is, because in real business, planning without measurement has very little value. Now, it's simple that whatever gets measured gets improved. So in this session, we will talk about KPIs at each step of S&OP, starting from our step 1, which is data collection and new product planning, then our step 2, which is demand planning, then our step 3, which is supply planning, then our step 4, which is pre-S&OP or financial reconciliation, and finally, our executive review. Now, in this session, we will also talk about how these KPIs help us to understand whether our forecasts are reliable or whether our supply plans are reliable, and even whether our financial plans are aligned to the business or not. Now, these KPIs also help leadership or other planning teams to take fact-based decisions instead of the gut-filling judgments. Think of these KPIs as a common language between sales, supply chain, finance, and even other cross-functional departments like product management, and finally for the leadership team of the business. Now, our next learning focus is to clearly understand what each KPI means, how it is calculated, and why it matters in the business terms. We will keep this explanation simple, practical, and linked to real business examples. So let's begin with this chapter and see how S&OP KPIs bring structure, control, and visibility into the entire planning process. Now, let's understand the Step 1 KPIs. We have already seen that the Step 1 is nothing but data collection and new product planning. Now, what we do in this particular step is we collect data from different departments like sales, marketing, product management. Even in this particular step, we collect data from our end customers who usually give their forecast inputs. Certainly, we also collect some data which is in the form of historical demand from the ERP systems. We already saw that we also capture the new product launch or phase-out plans from product management department in this step, and finally, we collate all this data as a baseline data. So this is our step 1, and in this step 1, what we recommend is we should have at least 4 major key performance indicators. Let's jump to these KPIs and understand each one of them. Now, businesses may have different KPIs or they may have additional KPIs in this particular step, but from our recommendation, we should at least measure 4 major KPIs in this particular step shown here. The first KPI is talking about data completeness percentage. Now, let's start with the formula. So, formula for this particular KPI is nothing but bracket available data fields divided by required data fields into 100%. Now, let's understand the basic concept. Whenever we have to do forecasting, we need to have a complete data available for all the products to move ahead. If we do not have the required data, like prices or demand history or any information that is required to do the forecasting, then our input is not complete, and hence our output will not be also a robust output. And that is why data completeness is an important step or KPI that has to be measured in step 1. Now, what is the meaning of this particular KPI? It ensures that there is no missing historical data, like prices or products data, when we do the forecasting. Now, let's assume that if you have to forecast for 5,000 products, and if you do not have historical demand for 20 products, that means you only have data for 4,980 products. Now, when we put this in particular example or in our formula, then what happens is the formula tells about that is equal to 4,980 divided by 5,000 into 100%, and the final outcome that comes is 99.60%, which is the data completeness in our forecasting method. Since having right and complete data is utmost important in forecasting, higher the percent completeness is better for making the better planning, so this metric should be on higher side. Now let's move to the next particular KPI that is nothing but new product forecast accuracy. Now, this is as similar as forecast accuracy that we will see in our Step 2, but certainly in the Step 1, it is also important to calculate what is the accuracy of new products that are launching into the market. And that helps us to understand how much accurate the product management team gives us the insights. The formula for this particular KPI is nothing but 1 minus bracket open absolute of forecast minus absolute of actual divided by actual and bracket closed. Now, what is the meaning of this particular KPI? It represents the accuracy of demand estimates for all the new launches of the new products. What is the assumption here? Let's assume that if you have to forecast new product demand and you forecasted demand as 100 quantity for January 2022, and if your actual demand in January 2022 was only 90 quantity, then in this particular case, when we put data in our formula, what it tells us is 89% is the forecast accuracy for the new products that are launched. And having higher forecast accuracy is always better for the business planning. Let's move to the third important KPI, which is Vitality Index percentage. Now, what is Vitality Index percentage? It is simply measurement of the total sales contribution of new products compared to the overall sales. So the formula for this particular KPI is nothing but bracket sales of new products divided by total sales into 100%. Now, let's assume that if the sales from newly launched product is $12,500, and if our total sales in that particular month was $88,950, then when we put these numbers in our formula, it tells us that 14% of the sales is coming out from the newly launched products. Higher the number is always better for the business because it tells us that the newly launched products are performing very well in the market. Another important metrics in the Step 1 is time to market, and we usually measure this metric in days. Now, what this tells us is it is talking about the speed of new product introductions in the market. Now, in every business, when there is a new product launch, usually it is approved by the leadership team that we will launch new products, and once it is approved, then the launch activities are being performed. These launch activities include new idea generations, designing the products, designing their prototypes, understanding market requirements, or even understanding inputs from the customer, and so on and so on. And it takes longer time to launch the products in the market. And because of that, we actually consider how much time it is taking to launch the products in the market in this metric. And the formula for time to market is nothing but launch date minus approved date. So let's take an assumption. If the new product development is approved on 5th of January 2022, okay, and the new product is actually launched in the market on 30th of June 2022, then when we put this data in our formula, then our launch date is nothing but 30th of June 2022, but it was actually approved by leadership to launch or to start new product development was 5th of January 2022. So it took 176 days to get into the market. Now, having lower number is better for business because it tells us how speedy or how responsive we are to get new products into the market, because having low number tells us that we are understanding market demand better and launching the products even before the competitors get into the market. So that's all about the step 1, and these are 4 important metrics that every business should actually capture. There are many more metrics that you can actually capture depending on your business requirement, but in this session, we recommend these are 4 important metrics that you must calculate to understand your planning health and your business performance.